Barbie, 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 boo. Barbie, Barbie, it's time to play some solos with you. Alright, following with The Devil in the White City, it's quite a interesting day. I don't know what the next career move is. I'm thinking of going solo. I'm thinking of joining a firm. I don't fucking know, man. I have no clue. But you know what? I do know that sometimes I gotta let off some steam, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do today. We're gonna let off some steam. I refreshed YouTube today, and I saw a weird Kanye West interview that I could not finish to save my life. Because it got weird to a point where I was just like, the hell are they doing? And I saw a Cat Williams, Jimmy Fallon interview where from a mile away, you know Cat Williams is stoned beyond belief. I mean stoned beyond belief. So I don't know what's going on. I'm going to take a swig. Devil in the White City, where we left off was going to be after these messages. What the hell is that? Let's go to Magic Moses. I hear he is magic, in fact. Yeah, life kind of feels like it's in a weird stage right now for me. Only because real life is about to be even more real, in the sense that going into business for one's self is no laughing matter. It's not a small ordeal. It's pretty massive. And becoming a 1099 independent contractor, to my understanding, has its perks, can have its downsides as well. But for the most part, you know, as long as I put in the work, I remain true to myself as best as I possibly can, of course. You know, I'm hoping I can, you know, do decent. Hello? Guns? I got a water bottle on this. Ooh. I'm getting the impression that there's a lot of people here. La 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 la. Jeez, dude. It's not that serious. Good golly, Miss Molly. Do I want this? Never tried this one, really. Ooh, nice. Yeah, he had high ground. I had no clue where he was coming from. Smart play by him. So, let's go ahead and do some spectating. Not gonna change the feng shui, really. Thank you, my good sir. Thank you, thank you. I tried my best. No, I didn't try my best. I tried. I tried somewhat, I guess. Pilgrimage. On Monday evening, December 15th, 1890, a day noteworthy in Chicago for its extraordinary warmth, and elsewhere for the gunshot death of Sitting Bull Daniel Burnham, stepped up aboard a train bound for New York, in what he knew would be the most crucial encounter of the Exposition Odyssey. He entered a bright green coach, one of George Pullman's palace cars, where the air hung with the stillness of a heavy tapestry. Okay. A bell clanged and continued clanging in a swinging rhythm as the train surged a grade level into the heart of the city. At 20 miles an hour, despite the presence at arm's reach of grip cars, carriages, and pedestrians, everyone on the street paused to watch as the train leaped past crossing gates, waving at raccoon trails of white and black smoke. The train clicked by the Union stockyards, doubly pungent in the day's strange warmth, and skirted sierras of black coal capped with grimy melting snow. Burnham treasured beauty, but saw none for miles and miles and miles. Just coal, rust, and smoke in endless repetition, until the train entered the prairie and everything seemed to go quiet. Darkness fell, leaving a false twilight of old snow. The exposition director's decision on where to locate the fair had caused a rapid acceleration of events that was encouraging but also unsettling, because suddenly the whole thing had become more real, its true magnitude more daunting. Immediately the directors had ordered the directors had ordered a rough plan of the fair to be delivered to them within 24 hours. John Root, guided by Burnham and Olmsted, had produced a drawing on a sheet of brown paper measuring 40 square feet, which the men delivered to the committee with a barbed aside to the effect that the designers of the Paris exposition had been able to spend a whole year thinking, planning, and sketching before reaching the same point. The drawing envisioned a mile-square plain on the lakeshore sculpted by dredges into a wonderland of lagoons and canals. Ultimately, the designers knew the exposition would have hundreds of buildings, including one for each state of the Union, and for many countries and industries, but on the drawing they sketched only the most important among them. 5 immense palaces seated around a central grand court. How's this dude doing? What's he doing? What's he up to? What's he drinking? Who'd he kill? Oh, did he kill that guy I was watching? Or the guy that killed me? How would I have played that differently? Well, first of all, he knew where I was. I don't know where the hell he was. So getting out of the car was not the right move. We need to be on level playing ground if possible, but every fight isn't equal. Oh man, pump and dump would have been a good move. Why? I'm pretty sure I picked up a pump and dump. I think I just didn't use it. Yeah, I guess, when you never play with exotic weapons, you get a little excited sometimes, That's all it was. A little excitement. Update on the back. The back is feeling great. And by great, I mean just better than yesterday, so, great. Back to it. They also made room for a tower to be built at one end of the court. Although no one knew exactly who would build this tower or what it would look like, only that it would have to surpass Eiffel's tower in every way. The dude's name is Eiffel, remember that. The directors and their federal overseas, the National Commission, approved the plan with uncharacteristic speed. For outsiders, it was the sheer size of the exposition that made it seem such an impossible challenge. That the fair's grounds would be vast and its buildings colossal was something every Chicago resident took for granted. What mystified them was how anyone could expect to build the biggest thing ever constructed on American soil, far bigger than Roebling's Brooklyn Bridge, in so little time. Burnham knew, however, that the fair's size was just one element of the challenge. The gross features of the fair envisioned in the plan concealed a billion smaller obstacles that the public and most of the exposition's own directors had no idea existed. Burnham would have to build a railroad within the fairgrounds to transport steel and stone and lumber to each construction site. He would have to manage the delivery of supplies, goods, mail, and all exhibit articles sent to the grounds by transcontinental shipping companies, foremost among them the Adams Express Company. He would need a police force and a fire department, a hospital and an ambulance service, and there would be horses, thousands of them. Something would have to be done about the tons of manure generated each day. Yeah, I would assume, I don't think you want your fairgoers to smell manure. That's not what they want. Look at this dude's use of this rocket. That's a W. Okay, he's about to die. Yeah, take that, chug. Go ahead. Pre-fire, just do it. Nope, don't worry about it. Go ahead. 3, 2, 1. All right, try it. Take 2. No. Get down there. Get involved. What a puss. He's down there. He's down there. He's baiting. Behind you. Nope, to your left. One thing I don't like about the bots in this game is that even if they do hit you, it doesn't matter. So, what's the point, right? Yep. No. You better take those pickle coins and run. Oh, beautiful. Look at this dude's loadout. Jeez, man. Yep. Oh. Nasty. He still loses. Oh, no. Wow. Jeez, what a good fight. Good defending by this guy. I didn't think he was going to win or pull that off in the end. I really didn't. Go ahead. Drink that. Oh, you gotta go, dude. You gotta go. Why don't you just... Oh, it was out of use already. Cool. Take that jump. Take that jump. Go the other way. Let's go. He would need a police force and a fire department, a hospital and an ambulance service, and there would be horses, thousands of them. Something would have to be done about the tons of manure generated each day. Yeah, we went through that. Immediately after the brown paper plan received approval, Burnham requested authority to build at once cheap wooden quarters in Jackson Park for myself and Force. Quarters in which he would live almost continuously for the next 3 years. The lodging quickly became known as the shanty, though it had a large fireplace and an excellent wine cellar, stocked by Burnham himself. With a power of perception that far outpaced his era, Burnham recognized that the tiniest details would shape the way people judged the exposition. His vigilance extended even to the design of the fair's official seal. It may not occur to you how very important a matter this seal is, he wrote on December 8, 1890. Letter to George R. Davis, the fair's Director General, its chief political officer. It will be very largely distributed throughout foreign countries, and is one of those trivial things by which these people will judge the artistic standard of the fair. All these, however, were mere distractions compared to the single most important task on Burnham's roster, the selection of architects to design the fair's major buildings. He and John Root had considered designing the whole exposition themselves, and indeed their peers jealously expected they would do so. Harriet Monroe, Root's sister-in-law recalled how one evening Root came home, cut to the quick, because an architect whom he had considered a friend had apparently refused to recognize Mr. Burnham when they met at a club. Root grumbled. I suppose he thinks we are going to hog it all? He resolved that to preserve his credibility as supervising architect, a role in which he would be compelled to oversee the work of other exposition architects, he would not himself design any of the buildings. Burnham knew exactly whom he wanted to hire, but was less aware of how incendiary his selections would prove. He wanted the best architects America had to offer, not just for their talent, but also for how their affiliation instantly would shatter the persistent Eastern belief that Chicago would produce only a country fair. In December, though he lacked an official mandate to do so, Burnham secretly mailed inquiries to 5 men. Feeling confident, you like that? Confidant? I like that. Feeling confident that I would carry my point. And indeed, soon afterwards, the Fair's Grounds and Buildings Committee authorized him to invite the men to join the exposition. Unquestionably, they were 5 of the greatest architects America had produced. But of the 5, 3 were from the land of unclean beasts itself. But what the hell is... Wait. Unquestionably, they were 5 of the greatest architects America had produced, but of the 5, 3 were from the land of unclean beasts itself. Are they saying Chicago? George B. Post, Charles McKim, and Richard M. Hunt, the nation's most venerable architect. The others were Robert Peabody of Boston and Henry Van Brunt, Kansas City. None was from Chicago, even though the city took great pride in its architectural pioneers in Sullivan, Adler, Jenny, Beman, Cobb, and the others. Somehow, despite his powers of anticipation, Burnham failed to realize that Chicago might see his choices as betrayal. Alright, I'm still trying to figure out. Land of the unclean beast itself. So, we're going to look these guys up. I'm going to look up George. Alright, so from New York. Are they saying these people are from New York? Richard M. Hunt. Land of the unclean beasts. Interesting. What troubled Burnham at the moment, as he rode in his Pullman compartment, was the fact that only one of his candidates, Van Brunt of Kansas City, had replied with any enthusiasm. The others had expressed only a tepid willingness to meet once Burnham arrived in New York. Burnham had asked Olmsted to join him for the meeting, aware that in New York the landscape architect's reputation exerted a force like gravity, but Olmsted could not get away. Now Burnham faced the prospect of having to go alone to meet these legendary architects, one of them, Hunt, a man also of legendary irascibility. Why were they so unenthusiastic? How would they react to his attempts at persuasion? And if they declined and the word of their refusal became public, what then? The landscape outside the windows gave him little solace. As his trains roared across Indiana, it overtook a cold front. Temperatures plunged, strong gusts of wind buffeted the train, and ghostly verga of ice followed it through the night. There was something Burnham did not know. Soon after receiving his letter, the Eastern architects, Hunt, Post, Peabody, and McKim, had held a meeting of their own in the offices of McKim, Mead, and White in New York to discuss whether the fair would be anything more than a display of overfed cattle. Jeez. That's crazy. During the meeting, Hunt, the architect Burnham most hoped to recruit, announced that he would not participate. George Post persuaded him, at least to hear what Burnham had to say, arguing that if Hunt stood down, the others would feel pressed to do likewise, for such was Hunt's influence. McKim had opened this meeting with a wandering talk about the fair and its prospects. Hunt cut him off. McKim, damn your preambles. Get down to the facts. In New York, the wind blew hard and harsh all week. On the Hudson ice produced the earliest halt to navigation since 1880. Over breakfast at his hotel on Thursday morning, Burnham read with uneasiness about the failure of S.A. Kean and Company, a private bank in Chicago. It was one more sign of a gathering panic. Okay, so it doesn't seem like this this fair was, the most supported thing in the world, right? It kind of seems like the fair was a little more of a, child's play thing when they first brought it up. It's like, are we really going to do this? Like, you do realize what you're asking here. If we're going to pull this shit off, we're going to have to pull something out of our ass, because there's too many moving pieces and not enough, not enough, I don't want to say leadership is the wrong word. There's too many things to do, not enough time, not enough, I'll be right there. Oh, wow, what a good shot. I give him credit. Only one kill? What a noob. I had two. Talk to me when you get 2 kills. But yeah, they were trying to pull off just a massive endeavor. And, I don't know, man. It kind of sounds like they didn't have enough trust in one another. I mean, this guy knows how to use this gun. Jesus. Behind you. Oh, that's your bot. Does it come in? Can she be mine? Yeah, it sounds like they were trying to pull this off. I don't know, man. It feels like there's too many moving pieces, too many people with a say for there to really be any movement going forward. I think this Burnham guy should have, definitely directed this a lot more with the heavy fist, iron fist, so to speak. Ooh, let's watch this fight. Get out of there. No. This is who I died to? Was this dude just a god with that weapon? You're about to get shot. Or is that nice? Big pot. Splashes, go ahead. What the? Play the rock, play the rock, play the rock. That Karibo was the right move. Ooh. Great gun. Okay, I like this loadout. Good health. Oh yeah, you can't use that bike. Are these dudes chasing? No way, right? No way. Let's keep reading. Burnham met the Eastern Architects Monday evening, December 22nd at the Players Club for dinner. Dude's about to get rammed in the face. I want to put the volume down. Oh, that's Spot. It's annoying. Their cheeks were red from the cold. They shook hands. Hunt, McKim, Post, and Peabody. Peabody down from Boston for the meeting. Here they were gathering at one table. The nation's foremost practitioners of what Goethe and Schelling called frozen music. All were wealthy and at the peaks of their careers, but all also bore the scars of 19th century life, their pasts full of wrecked rail cars, fevers, and the premature deaths of loved ones. They wore dark suits and crisp white collars. All had mustaches, some dark, some gray. Post was huge, the largest man in the room. Hunt was fierce, a frown in a suit, with a client list that included most of America's richest families. Every other mansion in Newport, Rhode Island, and along Fifth Avenue in New York seemed to have been designed by him, but he had also built the base for the Statue of Liberty and was a founder of the American Institute of Architects. All the men had one or more elements of shared background. Hunt, McKim, and Peabody had all studied at l'École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. Van Brunt and Post had studied under Hunt. Van Brunt had been Peabody's mentor. For Burnham, next page, for Burnham, with his failed attempts at getting into Harvard and Yale and his lack of formal architectural training, sitting down to dinner with these men was like being a stranger at someone else's Thanksgiving. I can imagine. And yes, I saw that dude's flip. That was kind of nuts. I give him credit. Gonna turn on my light. Hold on. Nap time, Bubba. My baby brother is napping behind moi. The men were cordial. Burnham described his vision of a fair larger and grander than the Paris Exposition. He played up the fact of Olmsted's participation. Both Olmsted and Hunt were hard at work on George Washington Vanderbilt's manor. Biltmore, near Asheville, North Carolina, and together had built the Vanderbilt family's mausoleum. Mausoleum. Never seen that word before. Oh, dude, you don't even know what day it is. But Hunt was skeptical and not shy about expressing his doubts. Why should he and the others interrupt their already full schedules to build temporary structures in a far-off city where they would have little control over the final product? Fair point. Fair point. What are you doing? Just hit him. One more. Or is that your bot? Yeah, that's your bot. Yeah, it feels like they're at each other's throats because they know that they're not the ones getting the final say. There's a lack of control there for them, and I completely understand that, right? When you're not in control of your destiny, you can do a job, obviously, but are you really going to do it to the best of your abilities? I don't know that you will, and that's kind of what I'm getting from these gentlemen. Their skepticism shook Burnham. He was accustomed to the headlong civic energy of Chicago. He wished Olmsted and Root were beside him. Olmsted to counter Hunt, Root because of his wit, and because of the other architects all knew him from his role as secretary of the American Institute of Architects. Ordinarily, it was in situations like this that Burnham could be more effective. To himself, and indeed to most of the world in general, he was always right, wrote Harriet Monroe. And by knowing this so securely, he built up the sheer power of personality which accomplished big things. But this night he felt ill at ease. A choir boy among cardinals. What the No way. No. Bot. He argued that Chicago's fair, unlike any other before it, would be primarily a monument to architecture. It would awaken the nation to the power of architecture to conjure beauty from stone and steel. Olmsted's plans alone would make the exposition unique, with lagoons, canals, and great lawns all set against the cobalt blue steep of Lake Michigan. In exhibit space, he told them the fair would be at least 1/3 larger than what the French had allotted in Paris. This was no mere dream, he said. Chicago had the resolve to make this exposition a reality, the same resolve that had made the city the second largest in America, and he added Chicago had the money. The architect's question became slightly less challenging, more practical. What kind of structure did he envision, and in what style? The issue of the Eiffel Tower arose. What could Chicago do to equal that? On this score, Burnham had no plan other than somehow to surpass Eiffel. Secretly, he was disappointed that the engineers of America had not yet stepped forward with some novel but feasible scheme to eclipse Eiffel's achievement. The architect worried that anyone who joined the fair would find himself in the grip of innumerable committees. Burnham guaranteed complete artistic independence. They wanted to know in detail how Olmsted felt about the sites selected for the fair, in particular about a central feature called the Wooded Island. Their insistence prompted Burnham to telegraph Olmsted immediately and urge him once again to come. Again, Olmsted demurred. One question came up repeatedly throughout the evening. Was there enough time? Burnham assured them that ample time remained, but that he had no illusions. The work had to start at once. He believed he had won them. As the evening ended, he asked, would they join? There was a pause. Burnham left New York the next morning on the North Shore Limited. Throughout the day, his train pushed through a landscape soured by snow as a blizzard, whitened the nation in a swath from the Atlantic to Minnesota. The storm destroyed buildings, broke trees, and killed a man in Barberton, Ohio, but it did not stop the limited. While aboard the train, Burnham wrote a letter to Olmsted that contained a less than candid description of the meeting with their architects. They all approved their positions to have them take hold of the artistic part of the main buildings. The general layout seemed to meet the hearty approval, first of Mr. Hunt, then of the others, but they were desirous of knowing your views of the landscape on and about the island. Therefore, I telegraphed you urgently to come. They were very much disappointed, as was I, when it was found impossible to get you. The gentlemen are all to be here on the 10th of next month, and at that time they urgently request, as do I, that you will be here personally. I find that Mr. Hunt especially lays large stress upon your opinions in the entire matter. Okay, all right, interesting. In fact, the evening had ended rather differently. At the Players' Club, sips of cognac and exhalations of smoke had filled that last difficult pause. The dream was an appealing one. The architects agreed, and no one doubted Chicago's sincerity in imagining this fantasy precinct of lagoons and palaces. But the reality was something else entirely. The only real certainty was the disruption that would be caused by long-distance travel and the myriad of other difficulties inherent in building a complex structure far from home. Peabody did commit to the fair, but Hunt and the others did not, they said. As Burnham later revealed, they would think it over. Yeah, that doesn't sound like much of a commitment. They did, however, agree to come to the January 10th meeting in Chicago to confer again and examine the chosen grounds. Grab that bubble shield, dude. Come on. Stop messing around. Let's go. Nice little laser. Notice how nobody gets the laser. Nobody likes it. But throw down a UAV. You got nothing to lose. Come on, get some information, man. None of the architects had been to Jackson Park. In its raw state, Burnham knew it was not a setting likely to win anyone's heart. This time Olmsted had to be present. In the meantime, Root, too, would have to become involved in the courtship. The architects respected him, but were leery of his powers as supervising architect. It was critical that he go to New York. Outside of the sky was blank. The light, pewter. 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 I've never seen that. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. Behind you, you're dead. Despite Pullman's vestibules, ice as fine as dust settled between coaches and filled Burnham's train with a tang of deep winter. Wind-felled trees appeared beside the railbed. Daniel Burnham arrived in Chicago to find the city's architects and members of the exposition board outraged that he had gone outside the city to New York, of all God-forsaken places, to court architects for the fair, that he had snubbed the likes of Adler, Sullivan, and Jenny. Sullivan saw it as a sign that Burnham did not truly believe Chicago had the talent to carry the fair by itself. Burnham had believed that he might best serve his country by placing all of the work exclusively with Eastern architects. Sullivan wrote, solely he averred on account of their surpassing culture. The chairman of the Grounds and Buildings Committee was Edward T. Jeffrey. With exquisite delicacy and tact, Sullivan said, Jeffrey at a meeting of the committee persuaded Daniel come to judgment to add the Western men to the list of his nominations. Hastily, Root and Burnham conferred and chose 5 Chicago firms to join the effort, among them Adler and Sullivan. Burnham visited each the next day. 4 of the 5 put aside their hurt feelings and accepted immediately. Only Adler and Sullivan resisted. Got something in my eye, sorry. Only Adler and Sullivan resisted. Adler was sulking. I think he, Adler, had hoped to be in the position I was in, Burnham said. He was rather disgruntled and did not know. Ultimately, Adler did accept Burnham's invitation. Now it was Root's turn to go to New York. He had to go anyways to attend a meeting of the directors of the American Institute of Architects, and planned afterwards to take a train to Atlanta to inspect one of the firm's buildings. Root was in his office at the Rookery on the afternoon of New Year's Day, 1891, shortly before his departure. When an employee stopped by to see him, he said he was tired, the man recalled, and felt inclined to resign the secretaryship of the Institute. This was alarming, as he had never been heard to complain of too much work. And while it only indicated extreme physical exhaustion, and before he went home he became cheerful and hopeful again, it has its significance in the light of subsequent events. In New York, Root assured the architects again and again that he would do nothing to interfere with their designs. Despite his charm, the Chicago Inter-Ocean once called him another Chauncey M. Depew in postprandial wit and humor. He failed to arouse their enthusiasm and left New York for Atlanta, feeling the same degree of disappointment Burnham had felt 2 weeks earlier. His journey south did little to cheer him up. Harriet Monroe saw him upon his return to Chicago. He was depressed, she said, by the attitude of the Eastern men, whom he found singularly apathetic, utterly incredulous that any association of Western businessmen would give art a free hand in the matter he set forth. The dream was too extravagant ever to be realized, and they were extremely reluctant to undertake its realization against the hampering and tampering. The interferences, petty and great, which they felt were certain to ensue. Root was tired and discouraged. He told Monroe he just could not get the men interested. He felt that this was the greatest opportunity ever offered to his profession in this country, and he could not make them appreciate it, she said. The architects did plan to come to Chicago for the January meeting, he told her, but reluctantly their hearts were not in it. Yeah, I completely understand what that is trying to say, right? It's like, I get that they're here, but they're not really here. If there was something else they could be doing, they would probably be doing that, right? So they're here, but they're not here. On January 5th, 1891, the Committee on Grounds and Buildings authorized Burnham to offer formal commissions to all 10 architects and pay each $10,000, equivalent to today of about $300,000. It was a rich fee, considering that all Burnham wanted them to do was provide working drawings and make a few visits to Chicago. Burnham and Root would see to the construction of the building and manage the niggling, Niggling, I'm not saying a bad word, niggling, details that typically haunted an architect's life. There would be no artistic interference. The Eastern men gave their tentative acceptance, but their concerns had not diminished, and they still had not seen Jackson Park. Okay, so that's interesting. So these dudes were essentially called on to get a job done, but they really didn't have much control or say over what the job actually was going to entail. It was more of like a, all managed from afar kind of ordeal. You get creatively to decide what goes on. Hit your shots. Holy hell. This dude's about to win from the... Oh. I thought this dude was about to win from the zone. It felt like these dudes really didn't have control over what was about to happen. creatively speaking, in their lives. So I completely understand their point of view where they're a little hesitant to just okay everything. Who won? This guy won? Nice. How long is this gone for? 50 minutes, it's not bad. Alright, so we can do the next subsection. It's only a few pages, so shouldn't be past 2 hours by any degree, unless I get a really good game in. But he just texted me a new Tron movie? Bro, they gotta... I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna watch the trailer right now. New Tron movie. Let's give it a rating system. You right, pal?
I'm looking for something. Something I do not understand.
Alright, that looks pretty good. I'll probably watch. $2,000 in gold. It's pretty good. New Tron movie. Actually looks pretty good. And I don't know if I'm really buying that girl running from okay, this either goes really well for me or really bad for me. And I waste a lot of gold for either nothing or something. So let's go ahead and do this. I hate playing this. Anything that requires you to be, you know, in the buildings, I'm not in. I'm not in for that. Right? Because if you hear the footsteps and you get the cues, the visual cues, you don't know if that's above you or below you. You just know that's in front of you somehow. Which is fine. But you're taking a chance, and you know, I'd rather play somewhere it's a little more predictable with respect to where anybody can hide. Whoa, 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 whoa. If this dude couldn't hit me, then he's a bot. Really? That was just bad on my part. Should have switched to the pump. Ah, jeez, man. Yeah, kill him. Kill him. Oh no. There we go. A hotel for the fair is the next section of the book. Holmes's new idea was to turn his building into a hotel for visitors to the World Columbian Exposition. No Palmer House or Richelieu, certainly, but just comfortable enough and cheap enough to lure a certain kind of clientele, and convincing enough to justify a large fire insurance policy. After the fair, he intended to burn the building to collect the insurance and a happy dividend. Destroy whatever surplus material might remain in its hidden storage chambers. Although ideally, given other disposal measures available to him, the building by then would contain nothing of an incriminating nature. The thing was, one never knew. In the most transcendent moment, it was easy to make a mistake and forget some little thing that a clever detective might eventually use to propel him to the gallows. Whether Chicago police ever possessed that kind of talent was open to question. The Pinkerton National Detective Agency was the more dangerous entity, but its operatives of late seemed to be spending more of their energy battling strikers at coal fields and steel mills around the country. Again, acting as his own architect, Holmes early in 1891 began planning the necessary modifications, and soon carpenters were at work on the second and third floors. Once again, Holmes's method of segregating tasks and firing workers was proving successful. Clearly, none of the workers had gone to the police. Patrolmen from the New York Police Precinct House on Wentworth walked past Holmes's building each day. Far from being suspicious, the officers had become friendly, even protective. Holmes knew each man by name. A cup of coffee, a free meal in his restaurant, a fine black cigar. Policemen valued these gestures of affinity and grace. Holmes was, however, beginning to feel mounting pressure from creditors, in particular from several furniture and bicycle dealers. This skin is hot. This girl's hot. I'm going to take a swig in honor of her. Yeah, zoom out, zoom out. Nice. Right, the book, I forgot. Huh? He could still charm them and commiserate over their inability to locate the elusive deal holders, H.S. Campbell, but Holmes knew they soon would lose patience, and in fact was a bit surprised they had not pursued him more forcefully than had been the case thus far. His techniques were too new, his skills too great, the men around him too naive, and if they had never before experienced a falsehood, for every business that now refused to sell him goods, there were a dozen more that fawned over him and accepted his notes endorsed by H.S. Campbell or secured by the assets of the Warner Glass Bending Company. When pressed, sensing that a particular creditor was on the verge of legal action, even violence, Holmes paid his bills in cash using money harvested from his own ventures, such as lease income from the apartments and stores, sales from his pharmacy, and the proceeds from his newest venture, a mail order medicine company. In a parody of Aaron Montgomery Ward's fast growing empire in central Chicago, Holmes had begun selling sham drugs that he guaranteed would cure alcoholism and baldness. He was always open to new financial opportunities, but was especially so now, since he knew that no matter how deftly he kept labor costs down, he still would have to pay for at least some of the transformation of his building. When Murtaugh's great-uncle Jonathan Belknap of Bigfoot Prairie, Illinois, came to Wilmette for a visit, that challenge suddenly seemed likely to resolve itself. Belknap was not a rich man, but he was well off. Holmes began appearing more frequently at the Wilmette house. He brought toys for Lucy, jewelry for Myrta and her mother. He filled the house with love. Belknap had never met Holmes, but knew all about his troubled marriage to Myrta, and was prepared to dislike the young doctor. On first meeting, he found Holmes far too smooth and self-assured for a man of so few years. He was struck, however, by how enthralled Myrta seemed to be whenever Holmes was around, and by how even Myrta's mother, Belknap's niece by marriage, appeared to glow in Holmes's presence. After several more encounters, Belknap began to appreciate why Myrta had fallen so thoroughly for the man. He was handsome and clean and dressed well and spoke in fine sentences. His gaze was blue and forthright. In conversation, he listened with an intensity that was almost alarming, as if Belknap were the most fascinating man in the world, not just an elderly uncle visiting from Bigfoot Prairie. Belknap still did not like Holmes, but he found his candor sufficiently disarming that when Holmes asked him to endorse a note for $2,500 to help him cover the cost of a new house in Wilmette for himself, Myrta Belknap agreed. Holmes thanked him warmly. A new house, away from Myrta's parents, might be all the couple needed to end their growing estrangement. Holmes promised to pay the money back as soon as his business affairs allowed. Holmes returned to Englewood and promptly forged Belknap's signature to a second note for the same amount, intending to use the proceeds for his hotel. On Holmes's next visit to Wilmette, he invited Belknap to visit Englewood for a tour of his building and of the newly chosen site for the World's Columbian Exposition. Although Belknap had read much about the World's Fair and did want to see its future home, he did not relish the idea of spending a full day with Holmes. Holmes was charming and gracious, but something about him made Belknap uneasy. He could not have defined it. Indeed, for the next several decades, alienists and their successors would find themselves hard-pressed to describe with any precision what it was about men like Holmes that could cause them to seem warm and ingratiating, but also telegraph the vague sense that some important element of humanness was missing. At first, alienists described this condition as moral insanity, and those who exhibited the disorder as moral imbeciles. They later adopted the term psychopath and used it in the lay press as early as 1885. In William Stead's Pall Mall Gazette, which described it as a new malady and stated, "Beside his own person and his own interests, nothing is sacred to the psychopath." Half a century later, in his path-breaking book, The Mask of Sanity, Dr. Hervey Cleckley described the prototypical psychopath as a subtly constructed reflex machine which can mimic the human personality perfectly. So perfect in his reproduction of a whole and normal man that no one who examines him in a clinical setting can point out in scientific or objective terms why or how he is not real. People exhibiting this purest form of the disorder would become known in the jargon of psychiatry as Cleckley psychopaths. When Belknap refused Holmes's offer, Holmes seemed to crumble with hunt and disappointment. A tour was necessary. Holmes pleaded, if only to bolster his own sense of honor and to demonstrate to Belknap that he really was a man of means and that Belknap's note was as secure an investment as any man could make. Myrta, too, looked crestfallen. Belknap gave in. During the train journey to Englewood, Holmes pointed out landmarks, the skyscrapers of the city, the Chicago River, the stockyards. Belknap found the stench overpowering, but Holmes seemed not to notice it. The men exited the train at Englewood Station. The town was alive with movement. Trains rumbled past every few minutes. Horse-drawn streetcars moved east and west along 63rd amid a dense traffic of carriages and drays. Everywhere Belknap looked, some building was under construction. Soon the level of construction would increase even more, as entrepreneurs prepared to cash in on the expected crush of exposition visitors. Holmes described his own plans. He took Belknap on a tour of his pharmacy, with its marble countertops and glass containers filled with wildly colored solutions, then took him up to the second floor, where he introduced him to the building's caretaker, Patrick Quinlan. Holmes walked Belknap through the building's many corridors and described how the place would look as a hotel. Belknap found it bleak and strange, with passengers that struck off in unexpected directions. Holmes asked Belknap if he would like to see the roof and the construction already underway. Belknap declined, claiming falsely that he was too old a man to climb that many steps. What is Avatar Aang doing? Holmes promised stirring views of Englewood, perhaps even a glimpse of Jackson Park off to the east, where the building of the fair soon would begin to rise. Again, Belknap resisted, this time with more force. Holmes tried a different approach. He invited Belknap to spend the night in his building. At first, Belknap declined this offer as well, but feeling perhaps that he had been overly rude in avoiding this roof, he relented. After nightfall, Holmes led Belknap to a room on the second floor. Gas lamps had been installed at haphazard intervals along the corridors, leaving pockets of gloom whose borders shivered at Belknap as Belknap and Holmes moved past. The room was furnished and comfortable enough and overlooked the street, which was still reassuringly busy. As far as Belknap could tell, he and Holmes were by now the only occupants of the building. When I went to bed, Belknap said, I carefully locked the door. Soon the street sounds receded, leaving only the rumble of trains and the hollow clip-clop of an occasional horse. Belknap had difficulty sleeping. He stared at the ceiling, which was bathed in the shifting light of the street lamps below his windows. Hours passed. Presently, Belknap said, I heard my door tried, and then a key was slipped into the lock. Whoa. Belknap called out, asking who was at the door. The noise stopped. He held his breath and listened and heard the sound of feet moving down the hall. He was certain that initially 2 men had been outside his door, but now one of them had left. He called again. This time a voice answered. Belknap recognized it as belonging to Patrick Quinlan, the caretaker. Quinlan wanted to come in. I refused to open the door, Belknap said. He insisted for a time and then went away. Belknap lay awake the rest of the night. Soon afterwards, he discovered Holmes's forgery. Holmes apologized, claiming a dire need for money, and was so persuasive and abject that even Belknap felt mollified. Although his distrust of Holmes persisted, much later Belknap realized why Holmes had wanted so badly to show him the building's roof. If I'd gone, Belknap said, the forgery probably... Next page, sorry. If I'd gone, the forgery probably wouldn't have been discovered, because I wouldn't have been around to discover it. But I didn't go, he said. I'm afraid of heights. As carpenters and plasterers worked on his buildings, Holmes turned his attention to the creation of an important accessory. He sketched a number of possible designs, relying perhaps on past observations of similar equipment, then settled on a configuration that seemed likely to work: a large rectangular box of fireproof brick, about 8 feet deep, 3 feet high, and 3 feet wide, encased within a second box of the same material, with the space between them heated by flames from an oil burner. The inner box would serve as an elongated kiln, Kiln, kiln. Although he had never built a kiln before, he believed his design would generate temperatures extreme enough to incinerate anything within, that the kiln would also be able to destroy any odors emanated from the interior box was singularly important. He planned to install the kiln in the basement and hired a bricklayer named Joseph E. Berkler to do the job. Berkler, what a funny name. He told him he intended to use the kiln to produce and bend plate glass for his Warner Glass Bending Company. At Holmes's instructions, Berkler added a number of components made of iron. He worked quickly, and soon the kiln was ready for its first test. Holmes ignited the burner. There was a satisfying whoosh. A wave of warmth rolled from the chamber to the far walls of the basement. The scent of partially combusted oil suffused the air. But the test was disappointing. The box did not generate as much heat as Holmes had hoped. He adjusted the burner and tried again, but achieved little improvement. He used the city directory to locate a furnace company and requested an appointment with an experienced man. He identified himself as the founder of Warner Glass. If for some reason officials of the furnace company felt moved to verify that Warner Glass existed, all they had to do was check the 1890 Englewood directory to find the company's listing with Holmes named as proprietor. Avatar Aang won. I feel like if he won, we kind of won too, right? It means I win. All right, I win. The manager of the furnace company, his name was never made public, decided to attend to the matter personally and met Holmes at his building. He found a young, good-looking man, almost delicate, who conveyed an air of confidence and prosperity. He had striking blue eyes. His building was on the gloomy side, the construction obviously below the standards of structures rising elsewhere on 63rd, but it was well located in a community that clearly was booming. For so young a man to own most of the city block was itself an accomplishment. The manager followed Holmes to his second-floor office, and there in the pleasant cross breeze from the corner windows studied Holmes's drawings of his kiln. Holmes explained that he could not obtain the necessary amount of heat. The manager asked to see the apparatus. That wasn't necessary, Holmes said. He did not wish to trouble the manager, only to seek his advice, for which he would pay an appropriate fee. The furnace man insisted he could do nothing without actually examining the kiln. Holmes smiled. Of course. If the manager did not mind spending the extra time, he would be glad to show it to him. Holmes led his visitor down the stairs to the first floor, and from there down another, darker flight to the basement. They entered a large rectangular cavern that ran the entire length of the block, interrupted only by beams and posts. In the shadows stood vast vats and barrels and mounds of dark matter, possibly soil. A long, narrow table with a steel top stood under a series of unlit lamps, and 2 worn leather cases rested nearby. The cellar had the look of a mine, the smell of a surgeon's suite. Interesting. This dude's a little, how do you say, a few screws loose, maybe? Or we're dropping, alright. Ooh. Yeah, it definitely sounds like this dude is a little, I don't want to say crazy. Crazy is the wrong word. It sounds like he's got a tendency to be wild as fuck. That's what it seems like. He has a tendency for the crazy, you know. Because if he's walking around making people believe that it's like, oh, I'm just like you know. I'm just one of the guys, dude. I'm one of the guys. I'm one of the bros, dude. Bros. Dude, bros forever, bro. Dude, bros forever, bros. What the hell? That dude's cheating, dude. That dude's cheating. Dude's gotta be cheating. There's no way. There's literally no way. It's a little too far out, you know. Dude, you don't want to test my karate with these Sub-Zeros. You don't want to do that. Trust me, you don't want to do that. Ooh, got to go fast. Got to go fast. Got to go faster, faster. Faster, faster, faster. Jumping at the speed of sound. Something, something. Da da da. I don't know where I'm hearing this. No, don't worry, you don't gotta move for me at all. You don't gotta move for me at all. Trust me, I'm cool with that. I'm gonna grab this medikit because I'm feeling a little parched. Did I? Thought I heard something, yeah. Gotta knock some people out of here. You're not pushing this, are you? Thanks, man. Appreciate you. I did not just hit one shot. Oh, gosh. Ah, I should have done the same. It's just not hitting shots, that's what that is. Oh, goodness, what a sweaty little night they got going on here. I think that was the longest I lasted in that game. Who has texted me at these ungodly hours? Alright, let's go ahead and read. Nice. Okay. They were going down like a basement, right? Where are we at? They entered a large rectangle cavern that ran the entire length of the block, interrupted only by beams and posts. In the shadows stood vats and barrels and mounds of dark matter, possibly soil. A long, narrow table with a steel top stood under a series of unlit lamps, and two worn leather cases rested nearby. The cellar had the look of a mine, the smell of a surgeon's suite. The furnace man examined the kiln. He saw that it contained an inner chamber of fire brick, constructed in a manner that kept flames from reaching the interior, and he noted the clever addition of two openings in the top of the inner box that would allow gases from the box to flow. Next page. The surrounding flames, where they would then be consumed. It was an interesting design and seemed likely to work, although he did observe to himself that the shape of the kiln seemed unsuited to the task of bending glass. The inner box was too small to admit the broad panes now appearing in storefronts throughout the city. Otherwise, he noticed nothing unusual and foresaw no difficulty in improving the kiln's operations. He returned with a work crew. The men installed a more powerful burner that, once ignited, heated the kiln to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Holmes seemed pleased. Only later did the furnace man recognize that the kiln's peculiar shape and extreme heat made it ideal for another very different application. In fact, he said, the general plan of the furnace was not unlike that of a crematory for dead bodies, and with the provision already described, there would be absolutely no odor from the furnace. But again, that was later. Holmes's absences from Wilmette lengthened once again, although at regular intervals he sent Myrta and his daughter enough money to keep them comfortable. He even insured the girl's life, since children, after all, were such fragile things and could be taken from the world in a heartbeat. His businesses were doing well. His mail order company brought in a surprising amount of cash, and he began trying to find a way to capitalize on the latest medical rage, a cure for alcoholism invented by a physician named Keeley in Dwight, Illinois. The corner drugstore. What is this? Wow. The corner drugstore ran smoothly and profitably, although one woman in the neighborhood observed that he seemed to have difficulty retaining the young and typically attractive woman he often hired as clerks. These clerks, as far as she could tell, had an unfortunate habit of departing without warning, sometimes even leaving their personal belongings in their rooms on the second floor. Interesting. She saw such behavior as a troubling sign of the rising shiftlessness of the age. The work of turning Holmes's buildings into a hotel proceeded slowly with the usual bouts of rancor and delay. Holmes left the task of finding replacement workers to his three helpers, Quinlan, Chappell, and Peitzel. Sound like Muppets to me, man. They seemed to have little difficulty finding new men for each new opening. Thousands of workers laid off elsewhere had come to Chicago hoping for jobs building the fair, only to find that too many workers had gotten the same idea, thus leaving a large pool of men available for work at any price. Holmes turned his attention to other more pleasant distractions. Sheer fate had brought two new women into his life, one of them nearly 6 feet tall and possessed of a rapturous body, the other, her sister-in-law, a lovely young woman with black hair and exquisite dark eyes. That the tall one came equipped with a husband and a daughter made the situation infinitely more appealing. For what reasons? I guess we'll learn in the next time I read, How long has this video been going on? I don't want to push these videos too long, right? Keep it short and simple to the point. You know, reading a little bit a day keeps the doctor away, as I like to, you know. An hour and 30 minutes, that's good, right? Typically, I keep these, you know, in the range of the 2 hours and 2 hours and a half, but this can be a short one, that's fine. This one can be a little more Fortnite than book, you know. Scratch my back. Oh, dude, you just... Alright, W, nice. Okay, this shotgun is better than the pump and dump. Let me turn off my light now. Let me turn off my light. Let me turn off the lamp in front of me, sorry. Now it's going to be a lot easier to see my targets and whatnot, because there's going to be no gleam from the light looking at me dead ahead. What a beautiful day, do-do-do, such a beautiful day. I will be studying for my health and life insurance exam, hopefully to be done within the month. So we'll see. That should be an interesting exam to take. Should be fun. Or maybe not, what do I know? We shall seeth. Oh, are we dropping hot? Are we dropping hot? I think we're dropping hot. Ba-dum-bum-ba-dum-bum. 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 People are here, who would have thought? Oh, you think you're funny, dude? You think you're effing funny? That's cute. That's cute. Let me show you how funny you really are. You know I'm here. You know I'm here. You know I'm here. Oh, darling. You drop this? Whoa. I see those dudes. I think I'm better off looting a little bit. There we go. Oh, shoot. Oh, dude, what to do now? What to do now? No! Alright, I won't end the night that way. That dude was... I don't know, man. I don't know. It was just such a... I hate fighting with certain guns, you know? This dude's good. This dude's moving. I gotta work on my movement. This is so on brand for me that I'm not happy about it. I'll do one with teams. Because typically in the solos, you know, I'm definitely not carrying. But in squads or something, you know, I cannot carry and still, you know, do okay as a team. I just want to get one decent game in. That's it. I'm a gamer, dude. I'm a competitor. Who's even on? Lexi just texted, said she didn't see me. Well, maybe that's because you don't have me added. I don't know. Is this her? No, it's not her. Yeah, Lex, I don't know who... Yeah, no clue. Alright, this will be the last game. Tour ready Sabrina Carpenter outfit. Who the hell is Sabrina Carpenter? Just say Barbie. It's the same shit. I've got nothing to say to that. Nothing. Nothing enticing about that. How do you know? Oh, I was gonna say, how do you know if I'm in squads, right? Do I have a team to launch with? What the hell are we doing here? What the f... If I find out I'm playing squads here, and I didn't get queued up with anybody, I'm just... This is LG. Well, someone's landing, you don't say. You seem like such a nice girl, Sabrina. It's a shame, you know? It's just a shame. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Alright, was this... Oh. Alright, not ending the night that way. I don't know why I didn't fill. I should have got a teammate. It's like the ultimate nightmare, right? Just ultimate Fortnite nightmare. You queue up for quads and you're ready. The night feels good. Yeah, I'd say fucking... Who the hell said no fill? Why would anybody no fill? You bots? What am I gonna do after? What time is it? 8 about to be 9. It'll probably be 9 by the time I'm done. Probably do some studying. Start my studying for my exam. I like this loading screen. It's very icy. I'm a sucker for blue. Do we have a team? There we go. USO Tone, Awesome, and UFO. Where we landing, fellas? There? Alright, cool. Where are the other bots going? At least I know that I have teammates now. As you can imagine, that was in fact my biggest worry last game. Do I have enough to buy anything? Oh, I do. Oh. Well. The hell is he? You have a deal coin? How? How do you already have that? thoughts? Oh, there's two of you. It's sad, really, that had to happen. It's so sad. But a different kind of gun, huh? Where the hell is red? Nailed it. Shit. Oh no. What is the team doing, right? They mark something and they're just holding their fucking cocks, right? Oh, this fucking dumbasses. Where's Pink? Where did I die? Whatever. Dipshits. Utter dipshits. What are you trying to reboot? Here we go again with these bots. Oh, but you all show up to reboot, don't you? Idiots. They took my stuff. I guess. I'm gonna take my sweet ass time, screw you. Shooting star. Yeah, no shit. You idiots. I'm on no bullets here. I gotta get a quick kill or something. It's not bad at all. you guys want to fight something, you can go first. Be my guest. I'm not fighting this. Yeah, I see this. Ah. Teammate, what are you... They're down here? They're down here. They're down here. Right? Right? Yeah, of course. Of course. This dude's shooting at leaves. I'm not happy the teammate died. I'm ecstatic is more like it. This dude, I don't even know what he's doing. I don't know if rebooting us is such a good idea because... Oh, that's right. We don't have any weapons. Junior. Oh my gosh, you should get your head sniped off right now. It's great. That's what I wanted. A green pistol, not a gray one. Game over, we win. Oh. That's fantastic. What was that, a pump and dump? Yeah, fun. This is fun. This is... I'm having fun. I got 6 kills. I'm having fun. What do you think you're gonna do? No way. You're dead. This dude got the card. But he's dead. Yeah. Look at this loadout. No way. No way. This is how it ends. Yeah, you're done. What the hell do you think you're doing? This dude going back to the storm. Dumbass. Alright, that was kind of worth watching. See you next time, I guess.